The morning was cold, the kind of cold that slipped through expensive coats and settled into the bones, yet the city moved as it always did, fast, indifferent, and unforgiving. Luxury cars glided past cracked sidewalks, and towering glass buildings reflected a sky that looked clean and hopeful, hiding the pain that lived below them. On the corner of a busy New York street, a beggar sat quietly with her head lowered, her clothes thin and worn, her hands trembling as she held a cardboard sign that barely read, "Anything helps." Hundreds of people passed her every hour, eyes fixed forward, hearts guarded. Among them walked a wealthy man whose life was defined by success, power, and speed. He never looked down. He never slowed, until the moment his young son stopped, turned around, and said something that shattered everything the man believed he knew. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and stories that remind us of our shared humanity, take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope. Comment your thoughts and subscribe to the channel Kindled Souls, because stories like this can change hearts. The man's name was Jonathan Hale, a self-made millionaire who built his empire from ambition, discipline, and relentless focus. He owned several real estate developments across the East Coast, lived in a penthouse overlooking Central Park, and measured his life by deals closed and numbers gained. To him, compassion was a luxury reserved for people with time, and time was something he never had enough of. His past was something he rarely thought about, locked away behind layers of success, buried beneath tailored suits and expensive watches. He believed the world rewarded strength and punished weakness, and anyone who fell behind simply hadn't tried hard enough. That belief made it easier to ignore the suffering around him, including the quiet beggar sitting on the corner he passed every morning. His son, Ethan, was different. At 8 years old, Ethan still noticed things most adults had trained themselves not to see. He noticed the cracks in the sidewalk, the sadness in strangers' eyes, and the way some people seemed invisible even when surrounded by crowds. Jonathan had raised him with comfort and opportunity, private schools and vacations, yet Ethan had inherited something his father had long lost: empathy. That morning, as they walked hand in hand toward their car, Ethan felt his grip tighten when he saw the woman sitting on the ground. There was something familiar about her posture, the way she hugged herself as if trying to disappear. Jonathan barely glanced in her direction, already reaching for his phone, his mind racing toward his next meeting. The beggar's face was partially hidden beneath tangled hair, but her eyes followed the boy as he slowed down. They were tired eyes, eyes that had seen too many closed doors and learned not to expect kindness. Ethan stopped completely. The noise of the city seemed to fade as he stared at her, his small chest rising and falling faster than before. Jonathan tugged his hand impatiently, annoyed by the delay, already forming a lecture about schedules and discipline. But Ethan didn't move. He looked at the woman again, then up at his father, confusion and fear mixing in his expression. His voice trembled when he spoke, not loudly, but with a certainty that cut through the chaos of the street. He told his father that the woman looked like his mom. Jonathan froze. The world around him felt suddenly unreal, as if the pavement beneath his feet had cracked open. His wife, Claire, had died years ago, or so he had told himself. The memory of her face came rushing back, not as it was at the end, pale and distant in a hospital bed, but as it once was, warm, gentle, and full of life. He turned slowly, almost afraid to look. The beggar lifted her head slightly, and in that instant, time collapsed. Beneath the dirt, beneath the hunger and exhaustion, Jonathan recognized her, the curve of her cheek, the scar near her eyebrow, the eyes that once looked at him with love and hope. It was Claire. The truth Jonathan had buried came crashing back with brutal force. Years ago, before his empire, before the wealth, Jonathan had been a man chasing success at any cost. Claire had stood by him through failures and long nights, believing in him when no one else did. But when success finally came, it changed him. He worked longer hours, traveled constantly, and grew distant. Claire struggled with loneliness and depression, feeling she tried to hide so she wouldn't burden him. When she asked him to slow down, to choose family over fortune, he saw it as weakness. The arguments became frequent, then cruel. One night, after a particularly bitter fight, Claire left. Jonathan, blinded by pride, let her go. When she didn't return, he assumed she had abandoned them. Months later, he was told she had died. He never questioned it. It was easier to believe she was gone forever than to confront the role he played in losing her. What Jonathan never knew was how Claire's life unraveled after she left. Alone, heartbroken, and battling depression, she drifted from place to place, clinging to the hope that one day she could come back when she was stronger. But life on the edge is unforgiving. One missed paycheck became many. Temporary shelters turned into streets. Shame kept her from reaching out. Each day, she told herself she would try again tomorrow. Tomorrow became years. By the time she ended up on that corner, she barely recognized the woman she had become. Ethan stepped closer to her, his small hand slipping free from Jonathan's. He didn't see a beggar. He saw someone hurting. Jonathan stood there, his wealth suddenly meaningless, his success hollow. For the first time in decades, he felt small. The city continued moving around them, unaware that a lifetime of regret was unfolding on a sidewalk. Jonathan knelt down, his knees touching the cold ground he once believed was beneath him. The smell of the street, the noise, the stairs, it all faded as he looked at Claire. She tried to pull away, shame flooding her face, but he didn't let her. Tears streamed down his face as the weight of his choices crushed him. He realized that while he had been building towers of glass and steel, the person who mattered most had been breaking apart alone. The road back was not easy. Wealth could not erase trauma, and apologies could not undo years of pain. Jonathan took Claire home, not to the penthouse, but to a quiet space where she could heal without pressure. He stepped back from work, cancelled meetings, and for the first time truly listened. Therapy sessions replaced boardrooms. Slow walks replaced rushed mornings. Ethan became the bridge between them, his innocence reminding them both of what had been lost and what could still be saved. Claire's healing came in waves, some days hopeful, others heavy. Jonathan learned patience, humility, and the power of simply being present. He saw how close he had come to losing everything that truly mattered. The man who once ignored beggars now made eye contact with everyone. He started programs to help the homeless, not as charity, but as responsibility. Each face reminded him of how easily life could unravel when kindness is absent. Years later, Jonathan often returned to that same street corner, not in a suit, but in simple clothes, handing out food and listening to stories. He never forgot the moment his son stopped him. That single act of compassion had rewritten their lives. Ethan grew up knowing that kindness is not weakness, and success means nothing if it costs your humanity. As the sun set one evening, Jonathan watched Claire laugh softly with Ethan, a sound he once thought he'd lost forever. He understood now that redemption doesn't come from money or status, but from facing the pain you caused and choosing to change. The beggar he once ignored had been his greatest gift, and his son's courage had saved them all. If this story touched your heart, if it made you pause and reflect on the people you pass every day, please like this video, share it, and subscribe to Kindled Souls. Your support helps keep stories of kindness alive. And before you go, leave a comment telling us one small act of kindness you believe can change a life. Because sometimes stopping and looking back is all it takes.